and welcome to Team Liquid's boss overview series for Manaforge Omega. I'm Eiya, and today we're taking a look at the Nexus-King Salhadaar encounter on Mythic difficulty. If this is your first time learning about Nexus-King Salhadaar, we recommend that you begin with our normal and heroic guide linked below. Let's start in Phase 1. First, you'll need to place the marks precisely as shown. In P1, we'll take the first Conqueror/Vengeance tank combo at blue, the second on moon, and the third on purple. The raid will always full group soak the first Conqueror of a sequence. It is important that the raid baits towards the middle of the room before the sequence starts and then move around the boss, facing the outside to the right, to find a safe space to soak. Be aware that although the Conqueror damage is vastly reduced by soaking with 19 players, removing that many stacks at once still results in a large amount of raid damage. After you have completed the first tank combo successfully, there will be 2 subsequent sets of blazes. It's important that these people have speed and spread out while the tanks move the boss towards the next marker for the following tank combo. Next, Nexus-King Salhadaar will spawn vengeful spirits that will attempt to charge at you. You will only ever see your own spirit. In order to live through this charge, you'll have to directly face the spirit as it charges through you. You'll have to face vengeful spirits 3 times in Phase 1, shortly after you remove a stack of Oathbound with Conquer. We have some helpful tips for this section of the fight. The first is that the spirits will always spawn around the boss, so moving toward the center of the room before they come out can afford you a significant advantage by preventing them from spawning on or close to you. The second, you can use backpedal or forward movement to justify your character's direction to make sure there is no weirdness with correct camera movement not being registered. Once you have completed 3 rotations of the P1 mechanics, the boss will end P1 and deal a large amount of damage while mind controlling any players who still have stacks of Oathbound. In Phase 2, the beams now have a predictable pattern unlike on Heroic. The mechanic always begins with the beams moving either from the outside in or the inside out. The pattern then reverses for the next set and continues alternating for the entire phase, even after intermissions. Here's some helpful strategy for this portion of the fight. Use your personal or raid-wide speed abilities for the first movement. Use a Warlock Gateway for the second beam movement in each sequence. Having a personal or raid-wide speed ability is also very valuable for getting to the intermission platforms quickly. The tank in charge of taking Dimension Breath should take care to reduce the damage as much as possible. This is traditionally done with Brewmaster Monk Diffused Magic, Celestial Brew, and Time Dilation from Preservation of Ochre. Once you have completed the Dimension Breath rotation, you will split into 2 groups for the intermission platforms. Originally, you would 3-heal the encounter and send the Holy Paladin to solo heal the left side and the other 2 healers to the right. Now that we're post-nerf and with the ramping raid buff, you can easily 4-heal the fight if you desire. Just make sure you have an even split of DPS on both platforms. Once you're on the intermission platforms, the group has several jobs. First, you must establish a clear interrupt order for the Nexus Prince. Next, to handle Mortar. The tank should choose a spot to consistently bait the hit, either right in melee range or at the far edge of the platform. Having a predictable location for this is crucial so that melee DPS can easily adjust their position and keep attacking the boss. If you get targeted by Twilight Massacre, you should run to the opposite ad. When you return to the main platform, you will simply play P2 again, but in the opposite pattern. Make sure that in both instances, the raid is positioned between 2 Netherbreaker center points signified by portals. You will then phase into the burn, for which you will want to have spread positions. With the ramping gear and DPS buff from Renown, it is increasingly possible that you may kill the dragon outright if you have focused it in P2. If this is happening for you, simply DPS the Nexus-King more in P2 instead of the dragon. P3 is pretty simple, but exceedingly easy to make mistakes in. The most important thing is that all ranged and melee understand where they are going for each galactic smash if they are targeted, as it's always the same. Ranged will always be centered on Star for set 1, Star for set 2, and Skull for set 3. Melee will always be centered on Cross for set 1, Circle for set 2, and Triangle for set 3. Galactic Smash hits incredibly hard but has a damage fall off, so if the tank is in your set, allowing them to be in the middle position on the marker is generally good. Spacing the smashes apart is also important. If you are a melee in set 1, use the shades in the center of the room to find a nice spacing. If you are not on the marker, find the 2 shades adjacent and stand in the middle of them. This will make aiming Starkiller swings much easier. For ranged and melee on other sets, the 15-yard range is a comfortable amount of spread. Closer or farther exposes you to potential issues on both sides. Once you have placed the Dark Stars with Galactic Smash, rings will spawn from them, periodically exploding with spikes as they grow. The most important rule for this mechanic is that you must cross the rings as soon as they spike. If you hesitate, you will die. If you don't move instantly, simply wait for the next time it is safe to cross rather than risking it, as risking it will result in death 100% of the time. It's very important that tanks are aware of how to bait the Starkiller Swing shade spawns. 2 of them spawn behind him to form a triangle, and there are a couple of rules you will want to follow as a tank positioning these spawns to create consistency. First, find the star that is rotating in the lead and place your back to it. Consider that it is moving, so positioning yourself ahead of it and allowing the stars to rotate into you is what you are looking for. Second, your goal should be that the boss should never leave the center circle of the arena. If you have spawned the shades correctly, the middle star will rotate just in front of the boss, which is targeting the tank with Starkiller Swing, while the other 2 shades are a nice distance away from the stars that their Starkiller Swings need to hit. You begin to run into problems when you spawn shades that stars rotate into, or when you spawn shades that leave very little space between them and the star. However, if you follow the place your back to the leading star convention while keeping the boss relatively centered, you should not encounter many issues. For aiming Starkiller Swings, the tank always takes the middle star. The other 2 players will see an arrow indicating either left or right. You should decide internally whether the point of reference is facing the stars or away from the stars. Personally, we recommend facing the stars. Note also that Starkiller Swing targets are baitable, and they prefer players closest to the shade. From here on, it's rinse and repeat outside of the changing markers for Galactic Smash, and should feel very repeatable until the boss dies. We hope you found this overview helpful. If you have any questions, feedback, or comments, drop them below. Stay tuned for more Manaforge Omega boss guides. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!